You're listening to Technology Frustrations and Gimmicks with your host, Aaron Moss.
Welcome to this episode of Technology Frustrations and Gimmicks, the show that educates the lost, the weary, and those who claim to know nothing about computers and technology. I'm your host and computer expert, Aaron Moss. This is episode 4 of 10 total episodes, all dealing with ways to speed up your computer, 101 ways to be exact. Too much information for one episode, so we made our entire full season of episodes on just speeding up your computer. Please listen to all the episodes to get the greatest benefit. Now we are on to way number 31, and that is to use keep desktop icons to a minimum. So when you have a lot of things on your desktop, when I say things, I'm talking about icons. Anytime that you have information or files just sitting on your desktop, that is actually taking up space in the RAM of the computer. So the less icons and the less files and things that you actually have on your computer desktop, the better your computer is actually going to run, because it's actually freeing up more space in the RAM. And the more RAM space that you have available, the more stuff your computer can quantify and calculate while it is in its active state. So anything that goes into the RAM of the computer, like we said in other episodes, is what is currently active. Okay, so not everything on your desktop is active all the time. Therefore, if it is on the desktop, even if it's not open, the computer is still taking up space in the RAM for that file to even exist on the desktop. So in order to free up a little bit more space, it's not a whole lot, but it may be that extra bit that you may need to have that program running properly. I knew one person who had hundreds of things on their desktop and their computer ran terribly. It was just a large difference in performance when we put everything on the desktop into just a single folder, and we labeled that folder desktop, and we put that folder on the desktop. So the way the computer computes that is it sees it as one folder, not hundreds of folders. Okay, so if you have to do that this may take a little bit more organization of your folders and how you organize your work on your computer, but the least amount of icons or items sitting on your desktop, your computer will run faster. Now we are on to way number 32, which is use a smaller resolution. So when you are using a computer, your screen has a resolution. That resolution can be adjusted in the settings within Windows platforms. If you touch the start button and or do a search for control panel inside of your search area, and you go to the search panel, the control panel, you go into the display and settings, or sometimes it may be graphic settings for some computers. You want to go in there and you're basically looking for change resolution or adjust resolution. And when you go into adjust resolution, you may see some sort of selector or drop-down menu, and it'll ask you what resolution you want your computer screen to display at. Now, the higher the resolution, okay, the more stuff you'll be able to see on your screen, because it makes the icon smaller. It does it at the bits per inch, or the dots per inch, the DPI, is increased with that higher resolution. But if you're not too particular about how the appearance of the screen is, and you would be willing to sacrifice some nice appearance for speed, you could always lower the resolution inside of that. What that'll do is it'll again, the same concept as the last tip. What it'll do is it'll free up more space in the RAM of the computer so that it can handle more other things that you need to be running faster on the computer. It lowers the amount of space that's being taken up within the RAM. This can also be true if you're running multiple monitors. So in a previous tip, we said that having dual screens can actually increase your computer experience. Well, it can. So if you're running 2 monitors, that will take the same or equivalent as having 1 monitor running at a higher resolution than 2 screens running at a lower resolution. So basically, if you're trying to maximize the type of usage that you're getting out of your screens, you would want to figure out what is visually appealing to you on the screens. Okay, try to put those in a dual screen configuration, and then do your lowest possible resolution that is acceptable to you. We're talking documents. We're talking going to a few websites to see if the resolution and the sizing is appropriate for you. And as long as you're using the lowest resolution, you are using the least amount of space on the RAM. Okay, so anytime that you can do anything to lower the amount of space that is being taken up on the RAM, you'll end up with faster service. Moving on to way number 33, keep browser homepage image free. So when you are about to go, let's say that you turn on your computer and you're about to go into a website. So you open up a browser. It could be Internet Explorer, Internet Edge, Firefox, Chrome, whatever it is that you're using. The website that it defaults to, okay, you need to make sure that it's not defaulting immediately to a website that has lots of images on it, because that will slow you down. If you go to a website or make your default homepage something like Google, which has no images on it, just a very clean search box with a search button there, that will load a whole lot faster than going to a website, say like MSN or Bing or Yahoo, that has lots of images on it. When you go to these websites that have all these images on it, it takes time for the computer to pull in those images, especially if they're videos and images and news feeds and flash movement and everything. You want to steer clear away from having those types of websites as your home page, or the page that automatically defaults when you open up your web browser. The home page can easily be changed by going into the settings of your browser. Okay, for Chrome, which is something that I use, and for Firefox, which are the 2 most popular ones, you just have to click in the settings area and go into, and you may just have to do a search for home page, or what happens when you open your browser, or what happens when you open up a new tab. Those are the things that you would need to adjust. You can adjust them any way. You can set it in such a way that you open up the browser and 10 of your favorite websites open up all automatically, but you have to wait for each one to load. Okay, so again, if you're trying to improve your internet speed or your internet performance or experience, try using a browser image-free homepage as your default website. Way number 34 is use a 5.0 gigahertz frequency for Wi-Fi. Now, this will not apply to many scenarios. Number one, just a little bit of a word of what Wi-Fi or 5.0 gigahertz signal is. Wi-Fi right now has two popular levels of data transmission. There's a 2.4 gigahertz, which is what a majority of them. It's an older standard. A lot of the Wi-Fi that's been around, for 20 years, a lot of those are 2.4 gigahertz, which is basically a frequency level. Then there is 5.0. 5.0 gigahertz is a much higher frequency. Some will argue that one is better for going through walls or going upstairs or greater distances, things like that. But the general rule, if you're looking for speed, if your device has both options to connect to the same router at 5.0 or 2.4, go with the 5.0. The 5.0 will give you the faster service, but the based on the information that I've read, 5.0 is your best bet for faster service, but it's not necessarily your best bet for going through walls or long distances or far distances. That is still something that is better for the 2.4 range. So let's say that you have a router in your living room and you want to have internet access in the bedroom and you want to do it wirelessly. If your device picks up both the 2.4 and the 5.0 signal in the bedroom, okay, you may have to do some testing of which one is actually faster. Only because it's going a long distance and probably going through a few walls. If you are in the living room, in the same room as the device, as the router, okay, and that's where predominantly you're going to be using the device, then you're better off with the 5.0. The 5.0 will give you the better, faster signal while in the same room, okay? Because the two, you would be sacrificing some speed with the 2.4 if you are in the same room, and only if your device is capable of picking up both levels of frequency. Thank you. Okay, way number 35, and that is to remove adware. So adware is different from viruses, it's different from malware. There's this thing called adware. Adware is a sneaky piece of software. And along with the sneaky pieces of software, it makes its way into your computer a variety of different ways. We're not going to get into how it does it, but sometimes it just makes its way in there. And what it does is, while you're on, this is one way that you know that you're being infected with adware, because advertisements will just start showing up on everything that you do. You can open up a Word document, and let's say it has the word bacon in your Word document. And by the way, you're not even online, okay? You just opened up a Word document, and it happens to have the word bacon, somewhere in this letter. We're just using this as an example. What adware will do is it'll search out keywords in anything that you have open, active on the screen, and it'll put an advertisement next to keywords. So now you have the word bacon in there. It'll actually insert an advertisement, highlight the word bacon, and show you the prices of bacon in your local supermarket. Okay, it'll do this to your Word documents. It'll do it to websites that you visit. It'll do it to just about any words that appear on your screen. It'll auto detect and it'll put advertisements to the keywords that are programmed into it at that time. So it's extremely annoying, and you know that it's there even when you're going to a website that you frequent, and now this website that you've been to so many times now all of a sudden has all these extra advertisements in it. Well, it's not the website. It's your computer. There's a software running in your computer that is using this Adware to put these ads in everything on your screen. It's equivalent as to someone sneaking in your house, not stealing anything, but posting posters and advertisements and coupons and advertising posters all over your walls in your house and then sneaking out. Okay? You wake up and, hey, yes, it's your house, but all these advertisements are all over the walls now. Somebody snuck in and is just using all of your empty space for ad space. It's extremely annoying. There is a way to remove them. There is ad killers that are out there, or adware removers. Usually what adware does is it disguises itself as a program in your program list as something that may look like something that you may want. It'll say something to the effect of an ad blocking software, okay? When in actuality, it is the ad putter-oner. Okay, that is the program that is actually putting the ads into the computer. Once you remove that, and you may have to restart your computer after you removed it, you'll notice that all the ads are gone. Sometimes it can be very, very tricky to remove. You may have to take it to a professional to get that removed. But definitely, removing adware will definitely help your computer speed. Way number 36, and that is to disable these web scanners or antivirus add-ons in the browser. So these what's becoming more and more popular now is these snap-ons or these pop-ins or these extensions. That's what they are. Extensions into your browser. And if you were to download an antivirus program or some sort of web scanning tool, something that's designed to help your overall experience online, what they may come up with is something to install into your browser to help or extend the functionality of that program into your web browsing experience. For example, you may decide to install a program like McAfee or Norton Antivirus into your computer, which, by the way, those programs are perfectly fine. But as you're installing those programs, there are different options that you can select that you would want to install. Some of these options will include a web scanner or some sort of web assistant. And what that'll do is anytime you open up a website, instead of displaying the website immediately with this extension on the browser, before it displays on your screen, the web browser engages this web extension to actually check the website out digitally before returning it to you. Okay, that time that it takes for that program to check out the website to make sure that it's safe before displaying it on, that time frame can be removed, or it actually slows down your computing time because it's doing all these extra checks, which are not necessarily required or necessary if you think about it. If it's a website that you frequent a lot, okay, and you know nothing is going to ever happen with it, websites like your bank, Amazon, eBay, popular websites that you've done business with before, these are websites you don't need to have checked. Okay, and if you're on there looking at a lot of sites that you've already been to before, there's no need to have this extra web scanner scan every little thing that you're doing, okay, slowing your computing timing down and delaying your website view time, sometimes a second, and sometimes even 5 seconds or more later. So removing these web scanners and antiviruses, these antivirus add-ons or extensions can definitely speed up your computing experience, especially online. Way number 37. This is a really old one, but keeping a cool room. So obviously, electronics, they do generate heat. Electronics, the smaller that they're getting, the lower voltages that they're using, they're generating less and less heat every time. But if you have any piece of electronics, if it begins to heat up either from an external source or by its own source, or if it doesn't have the ability to cool down, it will start to malfunction. But before it starts to malfunction, it will slow down. A warm computer that's running warm, in order to compensate, the computer will slow down its clocking. It'll slow down the number of cycles. It'll say, no, we can't go at that speed because we're already running too hot. Let's tone it down a little bit. That's how these computers are programmed. They're programmed to operate at optimal levels according to their current circumstances. If it knows that it's already running hot from an 80-degree room, if you turn that room from 80 degrees to 90 degrees, Fahrenheit, you might just be lowering the speed of the computer as well. But if you keep a nice cool room and keeping the air nice and clean, we'll explain the reason why. A nice clean room with clean air and cool air will keep the computer running at optimal capacity. Small pieces of electronics like your little calculators, even maybe your cell phones, if you're on it for a long time, let's say that you're on a long phone call and your phone has to communicate with a tower that's really far away, like on 1 or 2 bars reception that you're getting, your phone actually has to work harder to keep that phone call live, especially if you're only on maybe 1 or 2 bars. If you're on an extended phone call and you're holding that phone up to your face, you may start to notice that the phone is starting to warm up. That is normal. Electronics warm up when they're working really, really hard. That's why you need to keep a nice clean room. And this dates all the way back from, when I was in middle school. We had a computer lab where we were learning DOS, and it was the only room in the entire school that was air conditioned, because the school realized, if they don't want this expensive computer equipment to go bad, that's where if any room has to have it, then the computer lab has to have it. And all the teachers would go in there to have their have their lunch in there, nowhere near the computers, obviously, but that almost became like the pseudo hangout for the teachers' lounge, in there, because it was so cool. So definitely, temperature of the room definitely has an effect on how fast your electronics work. Way number 38, along with keeping your electronics cool, unclog the cooling vents and the heatsink. So in order to keep electronics cool, many of them have what's called a heatsink. And a heatsink is basically a very dense piece of metal that is able to conduct heat. So how you have your conductors of electricity. Well, there's also things that conduct heat. And they're usually the same type of metals, but if you have a conductor of heat, basically what you want to do is you want to draw the heat away from the heat source or the chips of the computer. So there's a bonding material or heat paste or thermal paste that is applied between the chip and the heat sink. And when the chip heats up, that heat that's generated radiates through the thermal paste and then into the heat sink, and then the heat sink starts to warm up. And then what you do is you blow a fan on that heat sink. And a heat sink is usually has designs of like very, very fine ridges or ribs. Okay, you can probably drag your fingernail across them, and it kind of sounds like a xylophone or something like that. But they have that design. The reason why they have those ridges in there is so that air, when it flows through those ridges, it cools off those fins. And since the heat sink conducts temperature or conducts heat, it'll also conduct cool air. So basically, hot air is coming into this heatsink while a fan blows the heat off of the heatsink. And basically it manages and keeps the heatsink cool, thereby keeping the chip cool. And it's used so that the chips don't overheat, or if they are in a position where they are overheating, all of the extra heat that is generated can be easily dissipated through the heatsink and the fan. Now, because there is a fan, now there are some laptops where if you were to open it up, you would probably see like a copper tubing effect going through there. That is the heatsink. And basically what that is doing, it's drawing the heat away from the chip, and then there's a fan on the other side that's actually blowing through ridges to keep that chip from overheating. But the heat is actually traveling through this copper tubing. So what tends to happen when a computer starts to slow down, the ribs or the ridges that are cooling, and you'll find these same ridges in air conditioners and heaters where you actually have the heat exchange. Those actually get clogged. Okay, especially if you have if the computer is used in a place where there's a lot of hair, animal hair, cat hair, dog hair. Sometimes if enough gets into the computer, it can ball up almost like a hairball, and actually to the point where it starts to touch the fins of the fan, so much so that the fan can no longer spin. Now, if the fan doesn't spin, then the computer doesn't cool off, and then it overheats, and then the computer is saying to itself, hey, I'm overheating, let me slow down. I'm going to slow down. Well, I'm still getting hot, I'm going to slow down some more. I'm still getting hot, I'm going to slow down some more, until it gets almost down to a crawl, where you're only doing, maybe a tenth of what the capacity of the chips are, only because of the heat. Now, all this process, you can be feeling the computer, and depending on how it was designed, even if it's on your lap, you may not feel like anything is burning. It may feel warm to the touch, but not hot. And then there's other cases where you have the cooling mechanism of the computer that actually fails altogether, and then the computer feels so hot that it actually burns your leg when you have it on. So that's consistent with another one. So heat has a lot to do with the speed of the computer. So you want to keep those vents, that airflow flowing through the fins of the heat sink. You want to make sure that is all clean, and to make sure that there is nothing stopping the air from flowing out of it. Okay, way number 39 is to reinstall the operating system. Now this is a major undertaking, because first of all, the reason why. Now, every so often, maybe, when I was running my business many years ago, where we're still using XP. My computer had crashed, and the only way to fix it was to reinstall the operating system. But I never had the disk. I went out and bought the disk, and now I had the disk, and now I could reinstall the operating system anytime that I wanted. But every time I did it, I had to make sure I did it in a special way that I didn't lose my files. So I had to back up the files and then reinstall the operating system. Now, when you reinstall the operating system, it's just like setting the computer up like brand new all over again. Okay? Anything that was slowing the computer down is now gone. Okay? You can now go in there and start fresh. Any viruses that were slowing you down, any malware that was slowing you down, 100% gone at this time. Okay, so reinstalling the operating system, excellent idea. You may want to invest in a install disk. You could download. Now, if your computer has if your computer has the sticker that actually has your Windows key on it, that's actually a good thing, because then you can buy the correct install disk from your manufacturer, and you can use that key to reinstall your operating system without spending a whole lot of money. But if you have an operating system that that does not have the key, sometimes they're embedded on the chip inside the computer. Hopefully you won't have a crash where it deletes that key, because then that's going to cause another problem. But in Windows 10, in Windows 8 and Windows 10, they made factory resetting the computer a lot easier, because you just have to go into settings and then do the reset this PC. It'll ask you if you want to save your files or if you don't want to save your files. Okay, and it's usually pretty reliable, but it runs off of a recovery partition, and sometimes the recovery partition of the computer does fail. And when you try to do, if it does fail, when you try to do that factory reset, it's going to tell you that something has happened with the factory reset, or it can't continue. That's when you're going to need to bring it into a professional who may have the disks to reinstall the operating system. But reinstalling the operating system is a great way to just overall refresh the computer and free it up of all the stuff that may not be able to be removed as easily any other way. It's also a time saver. We do a lot of factory resets at the Computer Doctor of Tucson. For the most part, if we feel that it's going to take more than an hour or two to repair some issue, we just default to replace doing a factory reset, reinstalling the operating system pretty much all the time. But that's a business decision, because we don't want to be working on a computer for 3, 4, 5, 6, 24 hours and still not have a good direction on what the problem is. So, and also to save the customer money, because we don't want to be charging them per hour for all this work that we're doing. So reinstalling the operating system is, we can treat it like a fix-all. Okay, if you have a suspicion that there's something in there and you have no other way to get it out, or if you feel like you're being spied on, you feel like somebody might be spying on you, or that there's some sort of watch program being put on there, a factory reset where you reinstall the operating system will completely 100% get rid of anything that was installed on the computer. So there's lots of advantages to doing that. Some people like to reinstall the operating system several times a year, just for the feeling of starting fresh. Okay, so reinstalling the operating system will absolutely help you with your speed. Way number 40, disable notifications. Now this one, for disabling notifications, this is primarily something that would be done for, that would apply definitely to Windows 10. Windows 10 has a default, I think, on all of their builds to just have endless notifications popping up in that lower right corner. Each time a notification pops up, it takes you away from your work. It actually occupies more space on the RAM, which was what we talked about before. Anytime that you can set something up so that it's not taking up space on your available random access memory is good, because it speeds up your computer, allows your computer to keep other important files open and ready for your usage. But if your notification area keeps filling up and notification, what you need to do is go into the settings area of, you hit start and then settings, and then type into the settings search area notifications. It'll bring you to the notifications area, and then you're going to see 4 very helpful switches, and it's basically on or off. Do you want notifications for this or notifications for that? You can just switch all 4 of those things off, and you'll never see a an operating system notification again. So definitely, if you shut off those notifications, you definitely will have an increased usage of your computer for it not slowing down for those notifications. That is it for this episode of Technology Frustrations and Gimmicks. We're hoping that you're getting as much as you can from these 101 speed tips to make up your computer go faster. This episode is sponsored by Computer Doctor of Tucson, a licensed desktop and laptop service support center working on all makes and models of computers up to 20 years old. If you are on a tight budget, enroll in our rent-to-own program on laptop and desktop systems for families, schools, and businesses, with tech support included. Call their main number at 520-261-5508 or visit our website at computerdoctor.xyz. Computer Doctor of Tucson, where they always take good care of you. I know, because it's my company. Let us know you're listening by making a comment or clicking the like button. Stay tuned for more episodes of our show. Until then, see you next time.
This episode of Technology Frustrations and Gimmicks is sponsored by Computer Doctor of Tucson, because technology is great when it works. For more of our podcasts, visit techshow.xyz or wherever you listen to your podcasts.